thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, in the first three sessions, right, I think a few things would have hit home. Number one, as Parveen mentioned, AI is not overhyped. There are practitioners who believe that this is absolutely going to deliver value, and they're on their way to actually doing that. Kosh mentioned that, it's actually, of course, there's a lot of use cases, a lot of early pilots that people might be doing. People have seen impact coming from it, but really picking one of the toughest problems to crack and actually going and doing it, that's where the challenge is, and that's where it's stopping some people, a lot of the marketers particularly. Rusty, of course, spoke about, again, why this is something that should not be shied away from, and that's something that the world is anyway moving towards, not only here, but globally as well. So what we will do in this session is actually talk a bit about the how, right? What could, as marketers, one do to actually get onto this journey, and what is it that is the world of possible according to us at this point in time. So with that, I would actually first like to invite Krishnan. Krishnan heads marketing for Google Cloud in India, and as he tells me, he was a failed musician who actually has now turned over to the corporate marketer, and therefore Krishnan, please welcome. And we will in the next 30 minutes we would actually walk you through a bit of what the secret sauce of this new operating model could be. Yeah. So over to you, Krishnan. You're, I think, Mark.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Check. Thank you. All of you can hear me? At the back over there? Okay, thank you. I thought I'll start this with a little story. My younger daughter is in class 12, and 2 months back she suddenly said she has no clue what she's going to do for college. We don't either, but we are sort of hoping she'll figure it out. So 2 months back she says, I want to take the SAT. And most children we know of seem to be preparing for the SAT for the last 1 year. So we said, okay, in 2 months, how do we get this girl ready? So at Google we use something called Gemini. And Gemini has this excellent thing called deep research. Anybody tried Gemini deep research? It's pretty good. So I went to Gemini deep research and I said, for a class 12 student in Gurgaon who wants to get ready for the SAT within the next 2 months, who are the parties who could help? And deep research spent 4 minutes digging through God knows what, and finally gave us 3 parties. We spoke to the 3, liked one of them, closed it. This is I don't know if you realized what just happened over here. A very fundamental change happened here for us as marketers. Today, I think we have a lot of talk around AI, from, let's say, specific capability perspectives. What many of us are beginning to miss is yesterday Alphabet announced results. Anybody tracked Alphabet's results last night? I know some of my colleagues would have, because the company did a $100 billion quarter. One little interesting point was Gemini, yesterday it was announced, has 650 million monthly average users. 650 million. This is from a company which has 9 to 10 products with over 1 billion users. AI is the fastest user growth product. We have Naren in our midst. Naren runs Gemini Enterprise, earlier known as Agent Space, the fastest product in the history of Google. So one thing we have to start realizing is more and more people are using this stuff. As they use this stuff, and they are our customers and consumers, something very fundamental is shifting, which is the customer's discovery process, which all of us are very used to, coming from advertising, search, and social, is now going through AI. The discovery process is changing. And that discovery process, so if you realize the problem statement I described to you with my daughter, in earlier days, I would have talked to 20 friends, checked LinkedIn, checked Facebook, whatever it is, done search, looked at some ads. We would have shortlisted maybe 20 parties. We would have looked for referrals, recommendations, spoken to maybe 10, 15. You get where this is going. We would have given marketers a big fat top of funnel. Instead, we looked at only 3. I remember many years back, I have a friend who used to be on the board of Pidilite. And he made this very interesting discovery. He said, one of the biggest and most profitable segments for us, Fevicol had a marine adhesive. He said, fishermen in Kerala tell us that Fevicol's marine adhesive is the most powerful adhesive to repair their fishing nets. And he said, because, this was SM Datta times, and, you walk the market, you discover people may want a sachet, those legendary times. But imagine that little tiny segment sitting in Kerala is a powerful and profitable segment for this company. That is a discovery. It's a story. I just told you this story. We don't need to do that anymore. And because now let's look at this fundamental shift. So now I'm swapping out and I'm becoming a marketing person. And I think with Netcore, it would be lovely for us to play this Jugalbandi, where I'm a marketer, they are somebody who will help marketers. How many marketers in this room? Okay, quite a few. So let's put on that marketing hat of ours. Here is our traditional funnel. You guys recognize this? So we use advertising, search, social, and we create this huge top of funnel. And actually, we are very comfortable with low rates of conversion. We are very comfortable. And any marketer who deals with sales will know this evil thing called the MQL. Anybody knows what is an MQL? Marketing qualified lead. What does sales think of MQLs? Sales doesn't really think very highly of MQLs. Am I correct? How many of you think sales thinks MQLs are garbage? Okay, there are too many marketers in this room. So, okay. Now, why do sales think MQLs are garbage? Because this traditional marketing funnel is not a high converting funnel. You are very comfortable with that bottom being 0.5%, 0.6%. But here's the problem, right? For you to explore that wide top of funnel, you put in lots of GTM money. You put feet on street, you put channel strategies, you put advertising, you put all of that stuff, and it gives you that little one drop at the end of this. Not a very good model. This model is changing. If you realize what I described to you in that SAT prep thing, today, because consumers their discovery is being assisted by AI, I end up with a far thinner top of funnel, but that converts significantly because the people who are discovering me, instead of participating in 40 funnels, they are now sitting in 3. One of the 3 will convert. What you are now beginning to see as a marketer is a straight line of sight to capital efficient growth. A slimmer top of funnel means correspondingly less resources spent on the GTM side of the game. And therefore, in the age of AI, you are also beginning to see 10-man shops who have unicorn valuation. I don't need so many resources to grow my business anymore. And marketing actually, and this is one of my pet theories, marketing holds the key to capital efficient growth. So for everybody in the room who put up your hand saying, I'm a marketer, you have the potential to be the bastion, the custodian of capital efficient growth. In today's world, capital is constrained and growth is the most valuable thing. It's a pretty good place to be. If you shift to capital efficient growth, what's going to be very important to think about from a positioning perspective, functional positioning perspective. How many of you know this line, 50% of my budget is wasted, but I don't know which 50%? Show of hands. I think it's a bit ancient, you're all very young, but this is a legendary line in the marketing world. 50% of my budget is wasted, but I don't know which 50%. Actually, if you go around tossing, yes, what are you, somebody saying? It's actually not David Ogilvy, but I'm sure David Ogilvy also said this. I can guarantee you, if we go around as marketers making this sentence today, we'll lose our jobs. Because as far as the CFO is concerned, 100% is wasted. You understand the challenge? What, as marketing, we need to start thinking about is, today's traditional marketing largely ends up being as part of the P&L's cost structure. We have to lift the game into the revenue line. And if we can lift marketing's game into the revenue line, you will be the custodian of capital efficient growth. I can assure you nobody else in the organization can do this. And if we start doing it, AI is the single biggest catalyst which can enable us to do this. And I just described to you the funnel structure. Because remember, that funnel change you just saw has actually two meanings. One is I could be one of three and triple my conversion rate. The other is I may not be in the three at all. It's going to become a very binary game. So let's look at what we can do, and there are some thoughts using what we do at Google. What's the operating model? And I think this is a very important question for all of us to think about. An operating model is people, process, and technology. All three will have to shift in the world of marketing. Our people will have to operate differently. Our tech obviously has to change to AI, and our processes have to be rethought. Why is that? You remember the Pidilite example I took, that one segment? The first game you have to understand to managing in the world of AI discovery is micro-segmentation. If that fisherman in Kerala is one segment, now imagine for Fevicol how many segments there are. Right? So Fevicol has had some great advertising, legends, but that's not going to work anymore. I, in fact, was having this conversation with the CMO of one of the biggest banks in our country. And when we discussed we said, look, as a banker, what are your segments? He said, I can break it down by demographics, psychographics, somebody is interested in home loan, somebody is interested in wealth management, geography. He said, I can count 8,000 segments. So the first question you have to start thinking about is, how do you get insights into 8,000 segments? And these insights are not just some, I did some qualitative research, I did some quantitative research, because then you'll spend the next 20 years doing research. These insights are already available to you. Like at Google, for instance, if you look at Google's Ad Insights, that tool, it instantly gives you insights at a micro-segment level, but that's not good enough. Because within your own business, your data lake is sitting with a story of which segment is the highest growth and the most profitable segment, perhaps the segment which gives you the highest lifetime value. You'll have to do that 2 by 2 and say which segment has the highest market potential for me, which segment does my data show has the highest lifetime value or such like. Those are the segments I want to own. If you have made that decision, and that decision can be hundreds or thousands, you don't have the wherewithal now. Forget creative generation. How many of us can write briefs for 5,000 microsegments? I can't even write those briefs anymore. In the world in the current marketing operating model, the brief is such an important thing. Many of us think mastery of writing of briefs is the magic mantra for us. You can't write it anymore. 5,000 segments, how will you write a brief? So you find somebody like a Gemini and you figure out how seamlessly data from 1,000 microsegments can go through an AI agent and get converted to 5,000 briefs. Then those 5,000 briefs have to in turn convert to perhaps 100,000 content artifacts. Now, once those 100,000 content artifacts happen, let's look at as marketer another step all of us do. Are we following brand guidelines? With 100,000 content artifacts, can a human being sit and say all of these meet brand guidelines? It's now impossible. Not just do I have to do that, I have to now take those 100,000 and position them into my paid media. So if I'm in the world of Google, I'll use a PMax or whatever. But it has to, the agent has to lift and shift 100,000 collaterals into a PMax kind of arrangement. But most importantly, your own channels. Because the magic mantra in the world of AI is, if I want the fishermen in Kerala to know about me, I must have a web page saying I am the best adhesive for the fishermen in Kerala. My owned media, if it is sufficiently content rich on the micro segment, the LLMs pick it up. You get it? So now I have to push 100,000 artifacts into paid, into owned. Job doesn't end there. Once I push all that, I have to bring all the data back, because now I am operating across 1,000 micro segments. There are responses being evinced. Those responses are converting through the funnel into my business. I have to learn from those campaigns, the content, the collateral, feed it right back to my audience insight. This now is a continuous loop. And it's not a loop where in the beginning of the year I say I will do these 3 campaigns. It has to happen near real time. Those who can pull this off will guarantee themselves as one of those 3 SAT providers for my daughter. Those who can't are going to languish somewhere. People will continue, but what will happen is if you are not playing this loop, your business will start getting commoditized, because the power that marketing and branding brings to you is going to keep getting eroded. So I think today, all I wanted to leave you guys with as an idea is very clearly your operating model has to change. This is my view of the operating model. It may not be the right view. You may have a different view. But start thinking, what is that operating model shift? How does people have to change? How does my process have to change? And the last question I will ask is, how does technology change? Because if I just change the technology piece, I will have people who don't know how to use it or don't want to use it, and I'll have processes which are designed for that, fat top of funnel, low conversion, trying to do this kind of stuff, and that's quite dangerous. I think, Sid, that's the last slide. So with that, I hope this gives you some food for thought. Wonderful to see all of you, and hope you have a great day. Siddharth.
So thank you, Krishnan. And as you all saw, right, where we are now headed towards is the new operating model. And I think one always asks the question as to, why is it, that this operating model is has not been easy to actually deliver, right, so far. And therefore, at least our belief is that marketing today is really attempting the impossible. It's easy for people to say, this is how you should do it, but we believe that it is attempting the impossible. And what is really driving this impossibility? If you take today, creating actionable micro segments, Krishnan spoke about, and personalized content for each and every one of them, and creating thousands of the fishermen in Kerala, but without overwhelming the teams and the design capacity and the creative capacity and the agencies and the whole work that is there. So there's a lot that actually goes on. That's a trade-off one has to make as a marketer. Really, every marketer, I'm sure, wants to actually move towards a very revenue growth-driven approach, but we ultimately end up focusing on vanity metrics, which is around attribution, CTRs, and so on and so forth. And therefore, if you actually think about it over a period of time, does the real revenue go up? Probably no, but there's a lot of activity that happens. The third kind of impossible thing is, everyone has cross-sell, upsell targets. If you take banking and financial services in particular, there are so many products out there that that a financial services has to actually offer to consumers. But ultimately, And there's a lot of pressure for each of those business units. But can you really do that without actually overwhelming customers with just bombarding them with messages? I think these are some of the trade-offs which I'm sure, hit home in terms of, as marketers, having been one, it actually really seems to be the art of impossible today, or attempting the impossible. What has changed in the last few months, maybe max a year, is the agentic unlock. And what is this agentic unlock? I think it actually helps us do two things. It solves for scale and doing a lot more micro segments, lot more content for these micro segments, and doing this very fast and so at scale. And the second, it really solves for relevance. And relevance means every single message, every single push that you actually send to me as a consumer, how relevant is it for me at that point in time, how contextual is it for me, and so on and so forth, right? So scale and relevance is what we believe agentic marketing will unlock. And in order to do this, what we will do now is actually show you a little bit of what we believe is the near future and what we are actually building towards. And to do the first of this, which is solving for scale, I'll call upon Kedar, my colleague, who is the Chief Product Officer of Netcore, and Kedar will run you through, in his own way, a demo.
Thanks, Sid. Cool, I think we'll see the demo in action, but before that, can all of you just give me a right thumb up? Okay, thumbs down? Awesome. So you got to do that again after the demo. So let's see how Crocs actually went about doing this using Netcore's agentic marketing stack. Can we have the demo, please? And this is actually Shivani, who is a growth expert at Crocs, and she had a BOGO sale right in front of her. And BOGO is buy one, get one free Crocs flagship sale that they kind of do every quarter. Shivani obviously had a lot of big targets and tight deadlines. But thanks to Netcore's co-marketer by her side, she already had 3 insights upfront: a dormant segment ready to be activated, men's category, and the bestseller parents and kids Crocs. With the marketer by her side, she says, let's go and make me a strategy. The co-marketer already had all the past historical campaign data, historical behavior from Crocs' previous sales. The segment agent comes into action, analyzes all the loyalty, historical campaign data, pulls out segments in no time, and these segments are ready to be approved. Shivani is pleased and approves the sharp segments. Next up is the content agent, who gets into action, creates personalized content for each of these segments, checks with Shivani what is the vibe going to be. As usual with Crocs, the vibe is lot more funny, casual, and witty. Lot more tuned to the new generation. She gives it a go, and content is getting generated for each of these cohorts. Thanks to Google's Gemini and VO3, you'll see images being personalized and created for each of these micro segments, personalized almost at a user level. Shivani answers few questions, and you see the classic images being created. All these images added to the brand logos, brand images, and guidelines. The ones that don't are naturally dropped by the brand guardrails. Videos being generated by VO3, like Krishnan said, at the scale of hundreds and thousands. The brand guardrails ensures that gibberish text or logos which are not rendered correctly don't go through. And with all of this, right, all the chaos that usually follows with creative teams, all of that is behind Shivani. And then comes the scheduler agent. He's the guy who decides what goes where, on which channel and what time, right? The guy who actually plans your Bali or Goa trip, right? Everyone else just follows. So it has completely summarized the entire strategy for Shivani. All of this is looking good. Shivani hits a button, execute now, and hundreds and thousands of campaigns are shot. Some of them, like Meta, obviously requires manual intervention because you have your templates being categorized into certain categories. You give it a look, approve them, and rest of it is all good to go. Right? You see emails being received in real time, notifications, WhatsApp, RCS, all of these delivered, hyper personalized, and in users' inboxes. With one click, products are added to cart, another click, and you have purchases flowing in. Right? All of this impacting real numbers for Crocs, right? 10x ROI, 50 lakhs of incremental revenue delivered, and real results. Looks good? Okay, thanks a lot, thank you.
Thanks, Kedar, for that very quick demo. And ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 separate breakouts, the BFSI breakout, the e-commerce and retail, and also for omni-channel. And you will actually see more depth as you actually go into those breakouts. So coming to, this was the first part of the unlock, right? Which is doing a lot of this at scale. So you can see what could typically take a marketing team weeks, if not a few days, right? Is done in a matter of minutes. And of course, there is a human in the loop, and there is, of course, a specialist that is needed in order to actually do the right kind of approvals, but that's basically the opportunity. So how does this actually become possible, right? Krishnan explained the new operating model, and I think here is where we as Netcore, being, having worked with marketers for a long time and Google Cloud on their entire data and tech stack, came together to actually figure out what would this mean, right? So from the audience insight standpoint, this is what has not happened in the past, right? Which is somebody like a Netcore bringing the affinity and propensity scores, the predictive CLTVs, because there's a lot of data you have on your segments and your customers who actually bought. Google bringing in the search intent and the demographic performance. If you move to the content creation, the auto generation of briefs, as Krishnan was mentioning, right? That's basically what is powered by Google, and what we would actually bring is more, doing a little bit of the brand guidelines, the segment specific hooks, and historic click rates around what kind of content has gone out. Then moving on to the paid and the owned channels, I think that's actually much clearer. In the owned channels, I think that's where the collaboration between, where you do real-time personalization on the app, web, interactive, and relevant kind of messaging, versus on the paid channels, you're actually just optimizing it and you're doing custom audiences. That's what Netcore brings, and that's what Google brings to the table. And finally, the data feedback and reporting, which is the self-learning loops. Again, this is where 2 stacks come together. And what we will see subsequently is, what kind of a technology stack can enable this entire scale to actually happen. Moving on to the second part of the unlock, which is that of relevance. So, for doing this, the second concept which everybody needs to know is the twin, right? And TWIN stands for something. And I will now call upon Jaimit Doshi, who prior to joining Netcore was the global CMO for Lenskart. And he is now the founder of Metuzi.ai, which actually is a Netcore company, and actually focusing entirely on actually creating twins and how do you really scale MarTech based with AI. So welcome, Jaimin.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, hi, Shorty. So we have cheerleaders in the front. Thank you. So. We're a Netcore incubated company, and we want to solve simple problems. So we don't like to really complicate it too much. So everybody understands and knows about digital twins, but we thought how we could make it very, very simple so that everybody in the room can relate to it, because I'm sure everybody in this room has been spammed by every company in the world. And how many of us even keep our notifications on? While you buy and send app push notifications every day, and you all are also guilty of sending it and guilty of complaining that you hate this kind of thing. This is the kind of notification that you probably would have received from every app that says, and how many of you have sent such notifications to your customers? Don't raise your hands. hey coffee lover, check out our latest international brews. And you realize that everybody, including your mom, got the same notification. So we just ask a simple thing. Do you have transaction data? Like basic data do you have? You have some basic data. You have age, city, visits, average spend. You know he's taken a cappuccino and a bread that I can't pronounce. You know that he comes on weekdays mornings. You know there's a click, open rate, etc. If you have this information, what will you do next? Just a simple thing. Will you improve your comms? There you are. You'll at least now say, hey Ravi, your morning cappuccino and almond croissant are waiting. Tap before 9 a.m. to skip the queue because you know he's tapping. You know that he's coming in the morning. You know ek ke saath do le raha hai. It's that simple. Now we add a little more data. The W, world information. What is basic world information? I know that you're in Bangalore. I know it's raining. These APIs are available. I know the category truth. We have a little bit of an algo that we understand. We have the category truth of coffee being a ritual and a belonging. We know that there is a competitive offer of going on that says there's something that is 1+1 or there is a combo going on. We know that the brand roots are authenticity and the exploration of the wing roots are about reward. What do you do? Now you know this, plus you know a little more. The next one, what's stopping us from saying this? Rains back in Bangalore, warm up with blah, 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 10% off, 9 a.m. festive week. It is that simple. A lot of you, when you look at the data and you make sense of it 1+2, you will give a better communication. Now, let me add a little more. There are interest data. You can scrape this out. We have proprietary algorithms that work with Meta and Google's, and you're able to glean a little more information. So we know that the person as a cohort, not as an individual, as a cohort is interested in music, fitness, travel, coffee brew, etc. You can impute the purchase process stage. You can actually talk about the potential on the app. Because every time, like dude, every time is not a buy now. There is sometimes read more, there is sometimes understand more, there is sometimes, hey, just check out the new styles. There can be lots of things. So each of these potentials are put on a potential grid so that we tell you what next the consumer can do in interacting with you. Then you get into further of the category truths and adjacencies. One of the things that we realize in adjacencies is very simple. Most of your time, you think the customer is interacting with you, but 99% of their life is outside of you. What are the adjacencies to coffee? Laptops, noise cancelling headphones, news. This is something we pulled up for a real customer. So it is what the adjacencies we managed to pull out. Now you know this. From that stupid coffee thing, emoji, at least you now change the emoji. How many of you are guilty of sending emojis in WhatsApp and app push notifications thinking it's Gen Z? Ravi, your rain day playlist deserves an honest Ethiopian brew. Now you are talking. Now I'm appreciating. Tap and pre-order 825 pour over with your favorite croissant to kickstart your day. Now you're starting to make sense. The segment of one is starting to kick in. Because each one, what we very clearly say at Metuzi.ai is that first you have to have the right to talk. What is simply the right to talk is I have to understand you. I have to take some effort to understand you. This data is available. Of course, the ability to understand it, make sense of it, at scale is the question. Now the last thing, how many of us know that we are love to be the same in the morning and evening and weekends? We're different people. In morning, I'm different. Like my daughter will probably say, I'm grumpy in the morning. Like my wife will say, I'm grumpy in the evening. But the point is that we are different during the day. We are different on weekdays, we are different on weekends. How many of you 100% know that there is my customers browse in the morning but buy in the evening? Probably on Saturday, Sunday I get less traffic but I get the best converting traffic. Or the highest value traffic comes on these days. We know that for sure. Like one of the things in my past company we realized that 12 o'clock at night is one of the best category of customers that are coming in. But they are not coming in at 12 and buying, they're coming in the morning and they're buying at 12. Or one of my favorite examples of morning 7, 8 or 8 a.m. is the typical potty seat or scrolling. They're sitting on the potty seats and just scrolling on the mobile for no reason. At that point of time, they're not interested in buying. you have to do horses for courses. This is something that we supplemented. So you know that morning, light rain, sin state, pride, category, comfort. This is supplemented through primary research. Afternoon, work mode, indulgence, weekend, sin state, lust, reward. If you know these three things, and you know the TWI of the customer, now you have the N, and there are different times you can send different things. Now you have a segment of 0.1. So when you have a segment of 1, think again. People don't like being classified into segments. People don't like being classified into segment of 1. People honestly don't know what they belong to most of the time. You go to a mall wanting to buy a sports shoe, but you will go and buy a jeans instead. It's not even you will buy another shoe, because that's what caught your fancy, because that brand spoke to you. That brand understood and made you think, you're right, this is what I want. There are multiple people asking for your money. There are multiple people asking for your attention. Every time a buy now is not it. You as consumers would hate it if a brand just said, buy now, buy now, buy now. We're also saying the same thing. There are 1,000 ways to interact with the category. There are 2,000 ways to interact with the brand in question. There are thousands of moods that you have as a consumer. Can we glean just the enough information to make it relevant for you so that we reduce spam and our customers love us and talk to us? Weekend plans, let the brew set the vibe for you, Ravi, because you know he's in music. Aaram se uth raha hai. You don't want an early morning wake up on a weekend. You want a nice 10 a.m. Indonesian fruity brew, whatever that is. That actually is something that works. And if you talk sense, will you get better click-throughs and will you get better brand love? That's what we aim to do at Metuzi.ai. Thank you.
This time I'm a little more relaxed, don't have to keep up pace with the video. So for last entire decade, right, the three engines behind, let's say, the first email blast that went out or your marketing automation, right, the most important three engines have been data, decisioning and delivery, right? And all of us believe we take data-driven decisions. Anyone who doesn't agree? I think you all do, right? And this has served us really well until now, right? But all of that for the next decade has to change into a fully autonomous loop. And that loop is data, decisioning, activation, and learnings. The learnings has to kind of feed into the system so that this autonomous loop works seamlessly and optimizes itself, right? And we have built the agentic marketing stack right on this specific loop. Let's take a look at that. Superb. So data is foundation of any intelligent stack, and it's the most important piece. What you see here is data flowing in from every customer touch point into the Netcore CDP, right? Be it channel interactions, what the user is searching on the web, every single signal left by the customer and every digital trace kind of feeds seamlessly into the CDP. And what you see next to it is the enterprise data warehouse that you may typically have on Snowflake or Oracles of the world, but with Google BigQuery, you have a very distinct and possibly an unfair advantage, right? That's because your GA4 data, Google's ad hub, all the ad tech data naturally also flows in. And with this, the two long lost cousins, right, ad tech and martech kind of come together to create magic. Next up is the decisioning layer, which is where Netcore's proprietary models that identify the right segment, right content, right time, right channel, all of that is derived. And we saw some of that in action during the demo. Along with that, we have a lot of agents that are actually built on Google's model stack, which is Gemini, Vertex, images using ImageGen, and videos using VO3. Right? This is like Google's computational muscle combined with Netcore's mind. For folks who kind of work out, I think you can relate to this. You understand the concept of mind-muscle connection, how important that is. Next is, of course, activation, which is where all the agents that we saw, agents like the insight agent that kind of fuels from the data, gives direction to the all the actions taken across every customer touch point, right from search to RCS, WhatsApp, channels like your app and web, even agentic commerce, right? There are purchases that are now happening on OpenAI. All of that are influenced by these agents. They ensure that your products are indeed discovered on agentic platform. And lastly and most important is, of course, the learning loop, right? The learning loop ensures all your insights don't remain buried in your Excels and CSVs waiting to be unlocked every once in a quarter or once in 6 months. They feed in real time into the system. These insights are your behavioral insights, your attribution, powered by, let's say, AppsFlyer, Branch, Mixpanel. All of these are fed in real time, and the insight agent feeds this back to the audience agent, segment agent, content agent, right? So with this, we build an autonomous loop that kind of works like a brain that improves in real time and works in real time. With this, let me also call in Naren, our co-conspirator in this entire thing.
Thank you, co-conspirator. It's a very hard part of the day today for me to come after such prolific speakers, especially Krishnan, yourself. I don't know what prompt you put into Gemini on what you should wear for the day today. I think it was not Gemini. I don't know. I was told to dress very formally. So you came from Goa, okay. It's a good excuse. But thank you very much. I'm neither a marketing tech expert nor a marketer. So I will just talk to you a little bit about Google's AI stack that's powering the journey for Netcore. And first of all, I would like to say we are extremely proud partners of Netcore. I think it's a relationship that has only strengthened over the years. Thank you to the entire Netcore team. And I think what we have been able to do together as two companies, I don't think individually we would have been able to do as much if we ran this race alone. Thank you. I want to take your attention to some of the AI stack that's powering this experience, and I'll probably tell you something that Rajesh told me some time back, that we should not think of AI as something that drives incremental value. We should think of AI to drive value and do stuff that was virtually impossible to do before. Like, you would not have either found as many people or as many resources or as much capacity to do that stuff in the past that you're now able to do with this technology. And then I'll give you an example which is not on the slide. How many of you know that this year there was a Googler who got a Nobel Prize, and last year there were 2 people from Google who got the Nobel Prize? Any hands in the room? Do we have goodies to give? Like, if people do right answers, I don't know. But do you know, anybody know the 2 people in Google, without Googling it, who got a Nobel Prize in 2024? Nobody knows? Okay, so we had 2 people in Google who got a Nobel Prize for work they did on a model called? Okay, so 2 people, I want the name of the model. Somebody knows the name of the model for which they got the prize. So there are 2 people in Google who got Nobel Prize for developing a model called AlphaFold in Google. AlphaFold is a model that does protein detection, like DNA, like detects protein structures. And that is like the foundation of life itself. A PhD student, full-time, used to take a lifetime to do 1 protein structure. It's a lifetime work to do 3D modeling of 1 protein structure for 1 PhD student. And there are millions of such protein structures. Millions. The total time that it would have taken for human beings to discover that entire protein structure was roughly estimated to be 1 billion years. It would have taken 1 billion years to do it. With the model that these 2 gentlemen and a lot of people in DeepMind developed called AlphaFold, we were able to do this in 1 year. of a problem that would have taken 1 billion years to solve. I think that is something that we need to do in order to really bring the power of AI to life. It should not be done from, I'm happy for you to use it for small incremental productivity uplifts and stuff like that. But what we are doing here is a foundational shift of capability. And that is what the Netcore Google Cloud relationship is all about. We want to change the way and change problems that were humanly impossible, doing millions of segments, doing hyper-personalization at an individual level, 140 crore Bharatvasiyon ko 140 crore different type ki messages. I mean, those are problems that were not in the realm of possibility even a few years back. So the two people who got the Nobel Prize, one is Demis Hassabis, who is the CEO of DeepMind, and John Jumper. Any guesses which field they got the Nobel Prize for? And no, it was not peace. Peace is for Trump. Any other? Chemistry. The Nobel Prize was awarded to them for chemistry. And that's how significant it is. Two technology people, ML, machine learning architects, got Nobel Prize for chemistry. That's how significant a moment we are living in today. I'll not talk about all the models. I have a session later for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit deeper about it. I'm speaking at the retail and e-commerce and digital natives breakout. But the ability for Netcore solution to use foundational technology that's coming from DeepMind, models like Gemini and VO and Imagine and Nano Banana, and the ability to do deep thinking and pro models which are extremely context rich, is what is the game changer in this stack. And then coupled with the technology on the data stack that's combined between Google and Netcore, I think that gives the uplift that you need. So thank you, Netcore team, and I'm extremely happy to do this unveiling of the tech stack jointly with you today. I hope this inspires marketers to think about radically new ways to go to market. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Naren. So I think one thing you should definitely take back today is automation is like cruise control, whereas autonomous is like self-driving, right? The question to ask yourself, your CTO and CIO is your existing stack self-learning and autonomous? I think that's the key takeaway I would want you all to take back. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kedar. Thank you, Naren. I think truly it's been a wonderful journey to create this together, and hopefully a lot of us will actually take this and make the impossible happen. Because as Naren said, I think it is truly, we want to take one of the toughest problems in marketing and really move the needle on it, and that's been the vision, and that's what we actually hope to deliver with all of you. But with all of this, therefore we said the new solutions, there are two. I will not. So the multi-agent workflow, which is multiple agents coming together and driving scale, and the twin, which actually uses data from multiple different sources to drive relevance. And the final thing that we are going to do is a very different pricing model. Now, MarTech historically has actually been always tasked with the number of messages that go out, the number of communications that go out, there's number of people that are coming, MTUs, MAUs, these are all the terms that all of you are familiar with. But that's not always aligned to the ultimate business objective. And as MarTech and as a player in this space also are seeing is that doesn't allow us to also really push the needle and push the boundaries on how much more integrated can you actually be. What other data sources are out there that you really should be integrating versus actually just taking this way. So we said we will change the way we operate, right? So we win when our customers win. Very simple. So we win when you win. How do we do that? With a very variable fee pricing model, which is 70% fixed. There's a component which is absolutely tied to business metrics, like the contribution of your CRM engines, the percentage conversion rates, the revenue that you actually do, or the repeats, and the value that you can generate from your existing customers. And collective targets, because I know all the teams that we work with have their own setups, their own targets, And if we were to actually join forces with you and actually beat and deliver that over and above that, then it's an alpha, right? And therefore we call this the alpha. So there is agentic, which actually helps solve a bunch of the problems. There is alpha. And then what's left? So for that, we will finally have Rajesh, our founder. And Rajesh, please, over to you.
Thanks, Siddharth. Piyush Pandey left a mark on all of us. And in the spirit of his Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, let's look at Har Number Kuch Kehta Hai. Every number tells a story. 90-10. Any idea what this is? It's hard because, of course, could mean lots of things. Essentially, this is the split of marketing budgets between acquisition and retention. Typically, CRM, retention, MarTech gets 10% of marketing budgets. 70%, the next number. 70% out of the 90 is actually spent reacquiring past customers. Customers who you had gotten through the door but who have left for various reasons. Little bit like this. Isn't that what we all do? You've got existing customers, but you keep eyeing new customers who actually turn out to be your exes. 70% effectively is ad waste. It's money which should have flown to your bottom line. 4 out of 5, another very important number. We surveyed 250 companies, tens of billions of emails with a simple question. Of the people who clicked on an email, in fact, same applies for WhatsApp also, who clicked in the previous quarter, how many of them clicked again in the next quarter? And the shocking number, 1 out of 5. 80% essentially is the attention churn rate. Not again conversion, just simple attention. How many clicked? How many clicked this in the next quarter? Go and check this number tomorrow. The problem for all of this is because historically, marketing has only focused on 2 things. There's been the loyal customers, the engaging customers, which MarTech, CRM, the retention teams do. And then there are the leads, the new customer acquisition. Ad tech focuses on that. But between these two, there's a missing middle. These are the lapsing customers and the lost customers. In e-commerce, typically you will find 60% customers are what are called one and done. They buy from you once, they never come back again. And then you have the lapsing customers who slowly are disengaging. Okay? And one of the reasons, of course, is the type of messaging which goes out, but there are lots of other reasons. They are disengaging. And the framework I like to call this is BRTN. Best, rest, test, and next. So test are the customers basically who tested you and then went away, one and done. So inactive, dormant, churned. You have the best and the next, and in the middle, sort of left behind, is the rest. And typically you will find 20% best, 80% of your customers are in the rest and test segments. And that is the problem. That is what contributes to reduction in profitability. Okay? It's something which is probably being unnoticed. So here's what is happening, and just look at attention. So clicks on push messages, typically how it flows. People engaged with you, they bought, they were reading your messages, they are coming to your website or app, and then they start drifting away for one reason or the other. So the best moves to rest moves to test, they become inactive, dormant, churned, and then they are gone. They are gone, and you end up having to reacquire them, your own customers, through non-owned channels. This is, think of this as the invisible transition problem. MarTech is unaware, and very few of them, you all would be actually tracking until it is too late. AdTech profits from it because MarTech fails in helping you engage with these customers. So simple question, how do you ensure that you never lose customers? There are people walking in through the door and you're letting them go. How do you never pay twice or thrice or multiple times for the same customer? Of course you want transactions, but above transactions, the upstream is attention. If you don't get attention, you are not going to get transactions. Of course, Fevicol ka jod, you'll remember, think of this as the brand customer ka jod. What you really need, and this is probably counterintuitive, you need daily mental salience. There's an excellent book by Byron Sharp, which came out probably 10 years ago, How Brands Grow. And he talked of a couple of things. He said, brands growth comes from not just heavy buyers, but from light buyers. Customers don't have brand loyalty, they have category loyalty. And you need not just physical availability, but you also need mental availability, mental salience. How can you win 15 to 60 seconds daily window in your customer's life? This is not by sending promotional messages. Need a different class of messages which historically has never been sent, relationship messages. You have your own channels. There are multiple channels that you can use, from WhatsApp, RCS, email, push notifications. Each channel has its pluses and minuses. There are trade-offs with each of them, from cost, how much control you have, what's the efficiency of these channels. And one channel where we analyzed a lot of interesting data is on email. We looked at 1 billion plus emails sent over a month from 11 brands. Engaged email users had 63 times higher conversions. So winning this 15 to 60 seconds window every day, top of mind recall, the customer sees the logo in your inbox, in their inbox. Okay? That recall, so when they are ready to buy, you are top of mind. And that's not going to come from the type of promotional messages that we send today. You need a different class of message. What you need to do is to think relationships. Can you build relationships with your customers? How can your brand become a habit in the lives of customers? Combine these two and you can start recovering the rest and test customers. So let's look at a simple example. If we can play this. So the big basket example, what we had done for them, interactive mail. So you have a little bit of game, you have a quiz which is there, you get rewarded with what we call Mew. This can be monetized via ads, so you don't have to pay money for it. These are what we call action ads. So the ads can be right inside the mail. These can be PII ads because the email ID is known. The person is not leaving the email. Then you have the recommendations. A lot of this comes from what Jemit spoke about earlier, the twin, TWIN. And then you can collect zero-party data. A simple example. The whole mail is done in 15 to 60 seconds. No one leaves the inbox at all. But what you're collecting is basically relevant information. You're sending maybe 3 or 4 recommendations. Okay. Comes in at the same time every day. If customers don't engage, stop sending. But these are relationship messages. They are not your typical buy messages. So it's time. It's time to make sure you never lose customers, never pay twice. If you leave this room, take this vow that you will make this happen for your company. It's time, I think as Krishnan put this point earlier, for every CMO to actually become the chief profits officer of the company. And if you can do that, trust me, you will be next in line for CEO. How many marketers do you know actually make it to becoming CEOs? Take over the profitability responsibility, also become the chief AI officer of your company. And if there's 3 things you take away, it's time for Agentic, for Alpha, and for Neo, the new thing that I showed you, those new emails, the relationship mails. Thank you.